The morning sun bathed Ouagadougou in gold as President Ibrahim Traoré stepped into his unmarked SUV. No press, no meetings, just a quiet order to his driver. "Take me to the central prison." "Sir?" the driver asked, surprised. "Shouldn't we inform the warden?" Traoré shook his head. "No staging. I want to see it as it really is." Two discreet vehicles followed as they slipped through morning traffic. The capital stirred, vendors setting up, children playing. No one knew their president was heading toward the country's darkest corridors. At Ouagadougou Central Prison, guards froze as the black SUV pulled up. One scrambled with keys. "We weren't expecting you, Mr. President." Traor's voice was steady. "Open it." Inside, Warden Pascal Ouedraogo rushed forward, flustered. "Your Excellency, had we known." "I'm not here for appearances," Traoré said, walking past him. "Take me to the prisoners." They moved through grim corridors, echoing with metal doors and muffled voices. The smell of sweat, rust, and decay was immediate. Inmates stared through bars, some slowly rising. A few dared to hope. Traoré listened. One man said he'd been there 3 years for theft. His family visited when they could afford transport. Others spoke of missing lawyers, rushed trials, lives paused indefinitely. Then Traoré noticed her. In a dim cell at the far end, a woman sat motionless, head bowed. Her clothes were worn thin, her hair uncombed. Unlike the others, she hadn't stood. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She looked up, slowly. "Mariam, how long have you been here?" 7 years. "What were you accused of?" "Stealing from my employer. But I didn't." Traoré stepped closer. Her voice was quiet, steady. "No lawyer, no one to speak for me. I was sentenced in under an hour." He turned to the warden. "Bring me her file, every detail, judge, arresting officers. I want it by sunset." Back at the ministry that evening, Traoré pored over the case file. The judge had been dismissed for bribery years ago. The evidence was thin, witnesses inconsistent. Mariam had never stood a chance. He called his justice minister. "Get here now." Minister Dufresne arrived quickly. "What's happened?" Traoré slid the file across the desk. "I met Mariam today. She's been in prison 7 years for a crime she didn't commit. No defense, forged records, corrupt judge. I want a full investigation her case and every other like it." In the next 48 hours, an independent review team uncovered a pattern. Mariam's employer, Laurent Geur, had used similar false accusations against other workers. All were poor. None had legal support. 5 had already been sentenced. At dawn, Traoré returned to the prison, this time with cameras, legal officials, and media. Word spread through the cells. Something was happening. Mariam sat quietly in her cell, unaware of the change outside. When the president stood before her again, she looked up slowly. "I've read your file," he said. "You were betrayed. That ends today." The cell block fell silent. Reporters stood ready. Legal documents were handed over. "You are a free woman," Traoré said. "You're going home." She blinked, unsure. "Is this real?" "It is," he replied. "It's over." The door opened. Mariam stepped into the light as the other prisoners erupted in cheers. Outside, a crowd had gathered. Reporters asked how she felt. "I don't know," she whispered. "I've lost so much, but I have hope." Traoré stood beside her. "Our nation failed you, but we won't abandon you." He personally brought her to the presidential guest house. A warm shower, clean clothes, her first real meal in years. That night, they sat together with tea. "What did you want to be?" he asked, "before all this?" She smiled gently. "A teacher. I studied education. I wanted to help children." "Then we'll help you do that," Traoré said. "You'll finish your studies, and when you're ready, you'll teach." But her story sparked something larger. Traoré launched Operation Justice Lighter, nationwide audit of long-term inmates with no legal representation. Over 6 months, 20 cases were reviewed. 347 wrongful convictions overturned. And Gur, the man who had accused Mariam, was arrested. Mariam became the public face of reform. She was named Special Advisor on Prison Reform and Human Rights. She visited prisons across the country, uncovering more stories like hers. She pushed for legal aid, job training, mental health services, and reintegration programs. Speaking at universities, she said, "Justice isn't just opening cell doors, it's helping people rebuild their lives." 1 year after her release, Mariam returned to Ouagadougou, prison now transformed. Legal centers, classrooms, improved living conditions. At the entrance, a plaque read, "Justice delayed is justice denied. Never again." Before a packed audience, she said, "A year ago, I thought the world had forgotten me. I was wrong. It just wasn't listening. Now we listen. Now we change." President Traoré stood behind her, proud. "Sometimes," he said, "leadership means listening." Mariam's strength taught us what justice truly means. She returned to the cell where her life had stood still for 7 years now, a library. Sunlight filtered through the bars, illuminating books on law and justice. She turned to Lebanon not with anger, but with purpose. As the sun set over Ouagadougou, a new day for justice had begun.